Welcome to In the 661, where we talk about issues that face our community, particularly the youth of our community. Jose Gurrola is the Arvin City Mayor, and just recently was involved in a bit of a very high-profile vote, in fact, that just took place. Jose, first and foremost, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kiyoshi.
So I want to talk about this issue. It's something that people have been talking about for quite some time. It's been a lot in the media, both in newspaper and TV coverage, and that is the vote. It is a Oil and Gas Ordinance. First, I want to get your take on why you voted yes and why you suspect maybe your fellow council members voted yes on this.
Well, first and foremost, the ordinance that we approved at the last council meeting, it was an update to a severely outdated ordinance. It was last updated since before the moon landing. You could print out the ordinance on 2 sheets of paper. And it requires less insurance coverage on oil operations within the city limits than most of us carry on our cars currently. The city has grown from 5,000 to over 20,000 in that place, and so it's in severe need of updating. And so essentially what this ordinance does is it updates the ordinance to be consistent with new laws and technology. It allows the industry to operate within the city limits, but with public safety in mind. And so the biggest thing, and I guess the most controversial aspect of the ordinance, is a public health buffer zone or setback. So that means within 300 feet of sensitive uses. Homes, schools, parks, hospitals, there can't be any oil and gas operations. From 300 feet to 600 feet, there are additional provisions that we call good neighbor provisions that apply. And so the regulation with respect to air quality, with respect to noise, light, sound, and then outside of 600 feet, it's just as it currently is.
Okay, so I mean, I'm going to read the quote directly so that way I don't mischaracterize. But I mean, Tracy Leach, right? She leads Kern Citizens for Energy. It's a pro-energy coalition here in Kern County. She characterized it as a ban. I want you to get into that in a few seconds. I want you to be able to respond to that. But her quote is this: "Rather than ban an industry that 40 million Californians depend on, we encourage you to educate yourself on all that energy adds to our lives." And that's taken off her Twitter page, as reported by the Bakersfield Californian. So her position is, and when you hear from oil advocates, is we bring an industry that brings business, and by kind of lifting the tide, you rise all boats. Their argument is, by bringing industry and bringing prosperity to the city of Arvin and to other areas in Kern County, they're helping improve the quality of life for people in Arvin. And why would you want to put regulations, whether it's a ban or not, why would you put regulations in place that would deter the businesses from coming in? So what would you say to that?
Well, the reason why we're putting regulations in place is because with an outdated ordinance, it's basically the wild, wild west in Arvin with respect to oil and gas regulations on the local level. And so I would ask Ms. Leach to educate herself on the ordinance. We have educated ourselves on the oil and gas operations. I understand that it's a big economic driver to the county of Kern. The ordinance within the city of Arvin, which the city of Arvin's limits is only 2.5 square, or just under 5 square miles, is not going to provide a big economic impact or negative impact on the county of Kern and its economy and its jobs and everything else that comes out of the industry. But what we're saying is it is reasonable regulation. Nowhere does it say that it is a complete ban, and we're just putting public health safety of our community in place. And so our community has suffered from the negative impacts of the industry. Air quality is the worst in the nation, sometimes characterized. Our water is contaminated with arsenic and 123 TCP. And in 2014, half of the neighbors on my street, where I live on Nelson Court, were evacuated for over 8 months because of a gas leak related to oil and gas operations. And so I have neighbors that tell me that they live next to an oil rig practically next to their backyard, saying it's noisy, my house shakes, I get nosebleeds, the odor is bad, and there's nothing that we can do about it. And so I'm listening to the community, and they're asking us to protect them from the negative impacts of the industry. We are still allowing the industry to occur and to have their operations, but we're not going to bow down to the industry just because they're a legacy industry here in the county of Kern. The city of Arvin has its right to determine its own rules based on the people that elect them. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And let me, because they'll push back, right? If Tracy was sitting right here, she would say,
Absolutely.
well, right, we're one of the most highly regulated industries. We have a track record of being safe. They would probably say, well, point us to, I mean, beyond what you just kind of talked about, where there was that one incident in Arvin, to an area where we're causing mass, problems with health. What would you say to her about that?
Well,
and not just her, but I mean
yeah.
the industry in general.
If you look at the asthma rates that in the city of Arvin and even throughout the county of Kern, a lot of students miss because of their asthma attacks and asthma symptoms. There's air quality alerts where we can't literally go outside, the kids can't go outside and play because of how bad the air quality is. But with respect to the oil and gas operations, this is something that we are listening to the community and that it is reasonable regulation. The State Attorney General's office wrote a letter saying that it's reasonable regulation. And this is the people's lawyer of the state of California, the chief law enforcement officer of the state. And so with respect to her comments about the negative impacts within the city of Arvin in terms economically on oil, there's only 10 active wells within the city of Arvin. And so this ordinance grandfathers in those current operators. And if anything, they're going to increase in value because they're grandfathered in wherever their location is. And if their location is within 300 feet, then they have access that nobody else has. And so their values are going to increase.
So those folks are in, so to speak. But
Yeah.
but let me ask you this, because when you read kind of into some of the other comments, their concern really is the chilling effect that it would encourage other cities to take a look at their ordinances. Based on your, what you've said now, would you be supportive of that or encouraging other cities to also look at their ordinances as well, given what your position is? We haven't updated this thing in decades.
Well, what I will say is that one of the chief arguments against our ordinance by the industry proponents was you should follow Kern County's model. It's a gold standard for permitting process and for being environmentally friendly, although it was challenged and partly upheld, but it's been appealed in court. I would say that the Arvin ordinance is the gold standard for putting health of the community first, along with allowing the industry to operate within their community. So if there's any community, not just in Kern, but throughout the Central Valley, which consistently have the negative impacts of this industry, they should take a look at Arvin's ordinance as the model gold standard for allowing the industry to operate, but with public health and safety in mind.
And my last question, very briefly, is this the end of it, so to speak, or do you think this is going to be an issue that's going to come up again down the road?
Well, the ordinance will take effect within 30 and 60 days, but I will say that Arvin, we're looking forward to embracing renewable energy. Kern County, yes, is the #1 oil producing county in the state, but we produce 50% of the state's renewable energy. And so we want to make sure that Arvin is a leader in that and that we allow that prosperity to trickle down to our constituents. And we want to make sure that we commit to a just transition to a clean, green, renewable energy economy.
All right, Mayor, thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us on In the 661, where we talk about issues that affect the youth of our community.